Welcome to the Spark Show. In this episode, I'm talking to Katja Lillian, and she is a certified integrative wellness and life coach, health blogger, lifestyle influencer, content creator, and mental health advocate. She helps women live a healthier lifestyle in all areas of self, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Welcome, Katja.
Thank you so much, Gwen. I'm so honored to be here.
I love like all your titles because it's kind of true for all influencers. It's like we have a bunch of titles and there's so many things that we do.
Yeah, we do so much. We wear so many hats. So I'm very proud of each title.
So I'm excited to talk to you about today because I feel like wellness is such an underrated thing that influencers and entrepreneurs talk about. And
Yeah.
yet I think it's one of the most important things. So I'd love to know kind of what inspired you to start focusing your life around health and wellness.
Yeah. Well, to get started, it's hard to name just one thing, right? I think my entire life, my journey has really shaped my view on health and wellness. And it's not always been so pretty. It's definitely been an experience of trial and error, to be honest, as I assume most of your audience, they can relate with that. But I've always been interested in health. I grew up with very active parents. We always led a very active lifestyle. I'm 5'11", so sports came naturally to me. I played basketball and volleyball, but my heart was definitely with tennis. And so I played in high school and I played first 2 years of college. But I think what I want to highlight here is that it was always for fun. It was never something that I could turn into a career, right? I grew up in a household where you have to get a real job. I'm using air quotes over here. So after my first 2 years of college, that also was tennis. All of a sudden, right, from one year to the next, I was like, okay, grow up, get a real job, quit tennis, move on. And that was actually the year I moved to LA. So I think that's really where my health took a toll, right? And it was stress. And I accepted my first real job, which, by the way, I got fired from within 6 months. And it was underpaid. It was crazy overtime hours. It was commuting. I'm sure you're familiar in LA, bumper to bumper traffic, 3 hours in the car. And at some point, I just thought that was normal. I thought that was the workforce and that's the status quo. Fast forward until I did reach my tech company. I've been with them now for 7 years, but they really introduced the idea of work-life balance and it's okay to take care of yourself. And they actually paid for us to go to the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within experience. I don't know if you're familiar, but that
Yes, I am
totally.
a firewalker.
Oh, are you really? Yay.
Yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, if you go to Tony's events with Unleash the Power Within, they like prime your mind to walk through the fire by like day one.
Yes, and that was such an impactful experience for me, and that truly shifted my mindset and my experience on health and wellness and allowed me to prioritize it, to be honest. So that's my story.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned like your tech job and that you've been there for 7 years. And I know a lot of people listening to this are also doing it on the side as a side hustle. And so, how have you been able to balance like doing well at your job and then your influencer career, as well as having like relationships and hobbies?
Yeah, so my one answer would be time management, some more time management, and then some more time management. I think there were just a lot of hours that I discovered in the day that I didn't know I had, right? How many times do we just kind of sit around or we postpone things, we procrastinate? And so I really needed to challenge myself by raising my productivity with every single hour that I had, right? And so I think for the audience that is listening, some of the ways I did that was really heighten my concentration and focus with mindful work. And that mindful work, what I'm talking about is, doing one thing at a time. right? Not many people do that because we live in this multitasking society, but that leads to feelings of stress. And I felt scatterbrained. I could not do that. So, focusing on one thing at a time, even on your computer, closing extra tabs, having one tab open for the task that you're about to do. And then I'm a huge fan of time blocking my calendar, right? So I have work calls for my tech company and I have emails, but I have to work around that. So I'll have a coaching call before, I'll have a coaching call after. I make it work. So time management for sure is my answer.
I love that. I am a time blocker as well. We definitely have so many things in common. I also love tennis. I'm
Yay.
only 5'2" though, so we don't have that athletic gene, but I try. I just feel like it's so much fun. Like tennis is
Oh
fun, and I'm
gosh.
as someone who played on the college level, I'm sure like you feel the same way. And I feel like that's something I think influencers forget to do, is like to do things just for fun and not because it's Instagrammable.
Totally. There's a fine line there. I was just talking to another client. She has more of a recipe health blog. And so she's sitting there eating her food, and every single meal, she's like, oh, I should be talking about this and I should be Instagramming it. I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, eat your food. But we get lost in that. Our personal and our professional, there's a gray zone there.
Yeah, so like having personal brands, we talked about this a little before we started recording, but it's like we share almost everything to our audience because we want them to feel like they know us, but
Yep.
also like where is that boundary of where you should be like living life versus sharing and documenting it. So I totally understand. So you talked about time blocking and you talked about some of your tips as far as like productivity.
Mhm.
What other things have you done to incorporate more of a healthy routine in your lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, from a basic level, it's really just taking those small steps, right? Drinking a glass of water when you first wake up, that helps your energy levels throughout the day. Making sure I give myself time to stretch and take breaks and take a walk. Like, I know that sounds cliche, and people are like, okay, that's a simple answer, but it's so true because I need to keep my energy levels high in order to do everything I do. Right. And so I think we often overlook that. I think people look for this big answer and, they spend hundreds, thousands of dollars. And it's like, come back to the basics. Let's start there. And that's when it can become habitual, right? We want to create this into a lifestyle, not just 8 weeks to lose those pounds for a vacation or something, right? We really want to have a healthy lifestyle for years to come.
I love that. I think that sometimes in the world that we live in and on social media, you see all these like get rich quick overnight successes. And we both know that it takes years to
Yeah.
achieve those goals and to build in working on those habits. So for those of you listening, like I'd love to for you guys to check out Katya and what she does. She does coach women on having a healthier lifestyle. So, can you share with some of the audience, like, what are some of the main things you focus on in your coaching?
Yeah. So my whole program is built off of four concepts. It's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Now, I know there's different coaches out there and they all have their place, right? Fitness, nutrition, business coaching, those are also important. My personal reason of why I became a life coach is because I believe everything starts with us, mainly our mindset. And once we work on that, everything else can blossom in our life, like our business. I think Tony Robbins has a great quote, and he's like, you are your business. So if you're not taking care of yourself, what's going to happen to your business, for example? So I focus on the self, and it's those four pillars. Mental is pretty obvious, it's our mindset, right? So limiting beliefs, are you still hanging on to anything like that? Um, Understanding that you are in control of your thoughts. I think often we think I am who I am, it is what it is, but we actually can control our thoughts into more positive thinking, which can really help us in terms of our emotions. Thoughts affect emotions. And so that goes into the second pillar, understanding you can control your emotions so that you're always excited and inspired. Now, I know everyone has their bad days, but 80% of the time, we do want to be in that good zone of positive emotions. And if you're not, don't spiral, right? We don't have to sulk in that. Know and understand how to get yourself out of that. You don't have to waste days. Let's reduce it down to hours. And then the last two, physical, I do touch on elements of nutrition and exercise, but my main focus is also our reality. So I go through like visualization practices. I ask, what are your goals? And then the key part there is to turn it into action steps and show them what are you actually doing every single day to get you to a place of happiness and, mental freedom, that type of thing. And then lastly, spirituality is more of this idea of surrender, right? I don't want ever someone to put their happiness on their outcomes, right? Goals are attached to outcomes, which are great. I think we need it for direction, but we can't get lost in that, right? So often people say, when I buy a house, I'll be happy. When I get that raise, I'll be happy. And my thing is, well, what about all the time in between? This stuff could take years. So finding happiness in the everyday, I think, is super powerful. And it's this idea of surrender, control what you can control. So that's a long-winded answer for you, but very passionate for this. Absolutely.
So good. What came to mind when you were saying those like conditions of happiness was when influencers say, when I get to
Mhm.
10,000 followers, when I get to 25,000, when I get to 100, and that goal just keeps moving further
Yep,
and further away. So
yep,
it's like, are you never going to be happy? And
mhm.
like you said, what are you going to do in between that time?
Yep, exactly. There's another quote that I live by. I'll paraphrase here. I don't know it word for word, but they say, whatever you do to get there, that's what you'll do when you're there. And it's so true. So might as well learn now how to live a healthier and happy lifestyle so that you can actually enjoy it when you do reach your goals.
I love that. It's so great. And I think that it applies to everyone. And I love what you're doing because I myself I focus more on like the business side of things, but I do see that half of that, or probably like you said, 80% of that has to do with like the mental, the physical, and the spiritual and emotional, because those are the things that you kind of have to tackle first.
Absolutely.
So based on kind of what you said, what would be your number one advice to people who are not prioritizing their wellness now? Like, what can they do right now as far as like a one or two action steps? You talked about like water first thing in the morning. I
Mhm.
love that. I started doing that too. And I started doing hot water in the morning, which was
Nice.
something I heard from my face yoga instructor.
You go.
Because apparently it detoxes, right? Like hot
Yeah.
water, it detox. It's like an Asian beauty secret.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you could give to our listeners as far as like what can they do to start prioritizing wellness now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll take yours. Start with hot water. Maybe add some lemon in it too. But yeah, I think you already said it. Start small. Like I mentioned before, I think people always think they have to get the expensive gym membership or now all of the fitness apps out there. And, again, they're all great. And maybe it's good to learn and discover new things. Of course, I have also different fitness apps and things I follow because it's more from a place of curiosity, really. But I don't need that to be healthy, right? You can start with the basics. So, um, I mean, I guess if you define wellness, what is wellness? It's just focusing on your daily habits, both physical and both mental, to really prioritize your mental health and your physical health. But for what? right? Why are you doing this? So really check in with yourself. I guess another action step is kind of sit back, take some time for yourself and check in, right? What do I need right now? Do I need sleep? That's a big one. Do I need movement? More water? Do I want connection with family, with friends? Who haven't I spoken with in a long time? All of those go under this umbrella of wellness. I think on a deeper level, I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to prioritize wellness because it's this idea of, well, if I'm taking care of myself, I'm not taking care of others, right? It's taking that time away. And I don't know where that comes from, to be honest with you, but it's, in my opinion, very wrong because I need to fill my own cup first in order to share with others. So it's this idea. I'm a huge advocate of self love. And I always say that self love is not selfish, it is selfless, right? And so when you prioritize you and what you want to do, whatever that looks like and whatever that means for you will then have this life of wellness and health because you don't feel guilty of putting yourself first. So that's on a deeper level there, but I really believe it. It goes so much further than just, drink your water.
I so many good points there. So many things we agree on as well. I grew up with the norms from like society, from
Yes.
family, hearing that, spending time on yourself is selfish and that you are not, you should be taking care of your family members, your sibling, your younger siblings. Like I was the oldest of four and it was like the makeshift nanny. And I was like, there was no time for myself. And I felt like that was normal. It wasn't until like my mid to late 20s when I started getting into spirituality, into meditation, and then gaining that self-awareness to realize, what do I want and what do I need? So I loved how you were talking about asking yourself those questions is a great first step to starting on that journey to wellness.
Yeah. And again, it goes back into my multitasking idea. We're so busy all the time, and we also get lost in that identity, right? Because we feel like we're productive and we're successful. So it's really hard for us to just slow down, push everything to the side for a few moments, and check in with ourselves. So it's a small step, but I think it's a very impactful step for sure.
I totally agree. And I love that. So if you're listening right now and you want to get started on this, those are just a few things. I feel like Katja's already mentioned like 30 things you could do. So just pick one of those things and start there. So I think that I think a lot of people struggle with the same thing that I help my students with is kind of staying on track, getting started, getting over their fears. And I know that as coaches, we totally believe in the need for coaches. Like I have coaches I learn from and mentors, and I'm sure you do as well, because it is hard to do it on our own. And the great news is you don't have to do it on your own anymore. There's so many people, whether that's reading people's book or listening to podcasts, watching videos, or hiring a coach and enrolling in a program, which is so accessible now with virtual
Mhm.
sessions, which I love. So, what do you think is like the most important thing about people who want to, have a coach, or why do you think it's so important to have coaching in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an important distinction to make. So one is mentors, right? And anyone can really be a mentor to you. They just have to inspire you. Obviously, they should be doing what you want to be doing, right? Because success leaves clues. There's another quote by Tony Robbins. um, and even books, authors, they can be mentors, right? They're literally writing everything down for you. So read books. But a coach is just more on an intimate level, right? You're talking to them, they get to know you and they challenge you. I truly believe everyone needs a coach. I don't care who you are, where you come from, what is your socioeconomic status. Everyone needs a coach. And it's because we get in our own head, we get in our own way. That's just how the human mind works. And so, as a coach, I'm not your friend. I am there to challenge you. I'm not always saying, like, yep, you're right. Uh, Everything that you're saying is like, I agree with. I can't do that because that's not serving you. I have to challenge you. I'm supposed to ask you those uncomfortable questions that you might not like. And so it forces you to think and take some accountability over your actions. And people don't like that word, accountability. I've discovered that. The reason why is because they can't point the finger anymore to someone else or to a situation, right? It's that victim mindset. And so there's a lot of power in taking on that accountability, but it's very hard to admit that to yourself. So, I mean, I even hired a coach 2 years ago. I knew I needed one to get over a hurdle that I was dealing with. So coaches need coaches too. And then I think my last point that I really want to highlight is, when you hire a coach or if you're looking for a coach, just remember, nothing's wrong with you. You don't have to seek for a coach because you think there's something wrong. It just really means that you want to level up and you want to work on something. It doesn't have to have this negative connotation to it. So take it or leave it. I might be biased since I'm a coach, but um, you're just leveling up. I would say that everyone needs a coach.
I totally agree with everyone needs a coach, because even for me, I don't think I would have moved as fast and as
Wow,
quickly with my business without having that coaching. Like, I
right.
could have taken probably 5 to 10 years longer trying to figure it out myself, but I
Mhm.
decided to invest in myself and learn from people who have been doing it for decades. Going to events, going to programs, taking courses. I'm great at learning and being a student. So I'm like, I'm just going to learn as much as I can and implement it quickly. And I saw that the results paid off. And I love what you said about everyone needs a coach at no matter what level you are. And speaking
Mhm.
back to our love of tennis, like Serena Williams has probably 15 coaches, right? 15
Yes,
to 20 coaches at each level of her play, right? She's like a serving coach, she probably has a forehand and a backhand coach. And it's not because she sucks, because we know she's like the best ever, but it's because she wants to keep getting better and being that best version.
totally. And I think another important part to highlight is, you can walk to your destination, you can run to your destination. The way I see working with a coach is like you have a car to your destination with GPS, okay? Everyone will get there, but it's deciding how fast and how accurately do you want to get there.
I love that analogy, the GPS. I've used that with some of my workshops, that someone
Yeah,
can give you directions and you don't have to take the detours or,
yeah.
have those delays because someone already tried that. And it doesn't mean you don't try it on your own, but you could possibly avoid those delays and those mistakes if someone were able to point them out to you early on.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. So, speaking of coaching, you have your own 6 week coaching program. Can you tell us more about it, and how have you helped people going through that program?
Yeah, so it's 6 weeks of my time, one-on-one calls every week. I give you a worksheet that pretty much is an extension of what we talked about on our call. So I also offer workshops, and then really just email communication, or really whatever form of communication you prefer. But basically, we work closely together for 6 weeks on those 4 pillars that I mentioned earlier: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. To speak to the impact, I can really just speak from my clients and their feedback and their testimonials that they've provided. But I've had people say that I've literally changed their life. And those words, when they share that, wow, I don't take that lightly, right? Like, I don't know if I can curse on here, but I give a shit. I really do. I really care about my clients. I always put myself in their shoes. I practice empathy. And I just want them to understand that, again, that they're in control of their lifestyle. And so, we peel back a lot of the layers of what's holding them back. And this could be from former experiences, this could be how they were raised, what they were taught. I mean, everything shapes us. And so it's just understanding, you decide what you want to hold on to and what you want to let go, and really move on from there and build. Um, I've had other people talk about how fulfilled they feel, even just after the second call. So it's very rewarding and impactful for sure. I think number one, I just want to educate people, how to do this. And number two is provide them with the tools so that they can continue to make progress even when I'm out of the picture. Obviously, this is just a 6-week program, but I always say, like, I'm here to get you across the starting line. It's your job to get across the finish line.
That's so great. I think that that's a great distinction that you said about getting them there, but then they have to kind of pull themselves through.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's also really important for them to realize at the end, I'm pushing you, but you're still doing the work. And there's something very empowering about that. So it's having them realize that they can really do this after the 6-week program.
That's amazing. So we're going to go ahead and put your links to your website and your Instagram in the show notes so people can check it out and get more information. So thank you so much, Katja, for being here on the Spark Show today.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And obviously, I said at the beginning, I'm honored to be interviewed by you. I feel like I know you already. I said that, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Spark Show, and I will see you on the next episode. Yay!